Welcome to Furthering Christendom. I'm your host, Tyler McNabb, and today I've got a special guest with us, a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, who we've now known each other since, I guess, 2019. He was someone who picked me up from the airport when I first landed in the University of Macau, and we just started talking. We basically haven't stopped talking since, and so welcome, John. Please tell us a little bit of background information, the university you're at, and what you like to focus and research on.
Thank you so much, Tyler, for having me. I'm presently working at Taizhou University in Zhejiang province, and here the city is famous for the homeland of Tiantai Buddhism as a sect of Chinese Madhyamaka, and also is regarded as one of the first Chinese Buddhist school. I'm presently working on Chinese Madhyamaka, focusing on Tiantai and Sanlong. Yes.
Awesome, wonderful. And your PhD was kind of addressing Hick from a Buddhist Mahayana standpoint. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. I also integrated perspective from also Tiantai Buddhism and Sanlong Buddhism, especially their understanding of two truths and the three truths framework. Yes.
Yeah, and in fact, you recently published a Philosophy Compass article on two truths.
Mm.
Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I was interested in the two truths theory for a long time, and especially the relations between the two truths, the conventional and ultimate truths. So I uh, surveyed all the representative views on two truths and also their relation to the classical uh, ideas, the Buddhist canons, and also I draw their implications to the discussion on interreligious dialogues and religious pluralism in this
Yeah,
paper.
because I mean, I've read the article; it's really good. The kind of idea also toward the end is like maybe the different interpretations of two truths aren't so contrary or in conflict, but maybe
Mm.
are actually helpful for each other and elucidate one another. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What would you take your
Mm.
what if someone asked you just really quickly, what's
Mm.
the two truths view in Buddhism? What would you say?
Um, for me, I think as you also argue in the paper that we can just think of their relations in four collective ways. Like the first, we begin with the dialectical things of relation, and we move on to the non-dual relation, and also a paradoxical relation, and finally, but they're not in the hierarchical relations. They're also in the Tiantai Buddhism, their relation of the interpenetration of the three truths, which is
Mm.
also a development of two truths. I think I'm not arguing one view instead of
Mhm.
others. I think we can consider all the four relations collectively to have a more nuanced and a complete understanding of the relation of the two truths. Yeah, that's
Yes.
the major argument.
And so the
Mm.
idea is that there can be a sense where some proposition is true, but maybe not in
Mm.
another sense. Maybe true in kind of this phenomenal way, but not this noumenal way, or something like that.
Mm. Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
what would you say, like the core teachings of Buddhism? What would if someone was like, "What's Buddhism? What are the essentials of Buddhism?" What would you say?
Yeah, mostly we began with the Four Noble Truths everyone knows, and I noticed also in Mahayana traditions and also in Chinese Buddhism, uh, when people try to summarize in a very brief way, they say the two truths, or 缘起性空, they say the interdependent arising and emptiness,
Mm.
and also different ways of understanding the relations as as a kind of most convenient summarization of the Buddhist teachings or Buddhist philosophies. Yeah,
So, what do you mean by
mm.
interdependent, and what do you mean by emptiness? Can you explain a little bit more?
To me, interdependent thesis is that all all things,
Mm,
all phenomenon, or all dharmas are interdependent, and it is closely related to the emptiness view that because all things are lack their own being. I think we discussed many times they lack their own being, and so. Uh, from the interdependent thesis, we can get the emptiness thesis, and then also from emptiness, we can have a better understanding of the interdependent thesis. That's why in Jizang's words, the systematizer of Chinese Zen Buddhism said, in such way, things are empty, so they arises, and in such a way they arises, therefore they are empty
empty.
of their own own being or yes.
Where do you take impermanence to be a central metaphysical thesis as well, or how do you understand
Mm.
impermanence?
Yeah, I think also a central thesis,
Mm,
and this is also closely related to the idea uh, of interdependence. They are closely related. I think it's not only the core idea for the early Buddhism, but also in Mahayana Buddhism and Chinese Buddhism.
mm,
And because the thesis is that uh, nothing is permanent. Is permanent.
mhm.
The yes.
Do you take it? Do you think it's essentially the view, like also the momentary thesis, where nothing
Mm,
remains what it is from moment to moment, or do you hold
mm.
a kind of a less radical view, or what would you say about that?
I'm sympathetic of the momentariness theory, especially Sun Zhao's argument on this view. Sun Zhao is also a Chinese Madhyamaka who
Hmm.
is a disciple, a close disciple of Kramjivar, who translated the Madhyamaka text
Hmm.
into Chinese, and who is regarded as the patriarch of Chinese Madhyamaka, and he really likes his disciple Shen Zhao, and regarded as the foremost Chinese scholar who understands emptiness. So he also has the view of momentariness in explaining the impermanence thesis. Yeah.
Yeah. Though I
Mm.
should probably point out that my Theravada Abhidharma friends, they're not going to be too
Mm.
pleased with what we're saying, how
Mm.
we're talking about emptiness, right? Because they're going to want to say that the dharmas
Mm.
aren't empty, everything else, yeah, that's fine, that's empty. But so that
Yeah,
distinction, the Madhyamaka distinction from Theravada and so forth.
sure,
Um,
sure. They are the debates. Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm. If I were a Buddhist, I'd be more Madhyamaka. But um, what what's your view about Nirvana? So
Mm.
uh, in the Pali Canon, right? I mean, Nirvana is it's discussed as kind of something positive, like it's uncreate,
Mm.
it's bliss.
Mm.
It's like all these kind of good things, good features, where it seems like there's positive ontology there. But I've got other Buddhist friends, right, who will say it says that, but it's just like a skillful means. There really is nothing to Nirvana. Nirvana is simply just um, the lack of suffering. It's the cessation of suffering.
Mm.
And then have other Buddhists, like especially if you look at Shintang or Pure Land, where Nirvana is being described as having kind of positive ontology. So just kind of curious, what
Mm.
on your view, on your Madhyamaka view, how do you understand Nirvana?
Yeah, there's also the common tendency of just deconstruct nirvana, like
Mm-hmm.
there's the non-duality between nirvana and samsara in I noticed in Mahayana traditions, and in terms of the positive ontological things, I find also in Chinese traditions there's this view of free play. I think in the positive things, nirvana is the freedom, the free from something, and then when people are entering these states, they have this free play of a free play. The idea of the especially in Gong'an tradition, the
Mm-hmm.
masters and disciples, kind of understanding the nirvana also as a skillful means. So
Mm,
uh, uh, I'm sympathetic about this view, and so there are various ways of understanding
mm-hmm,
nirvana, especially in the Mahayana traditions, when people are really attached to this idea, and
mm-hmm,
then there's a further deconstruction of the idea of nirvana and the non-duality between nirvana and
mm-hmm,
samsara, and sometimes taking nirvana as a state, not a thing to be
mm-hmm,
achieved. It's a state of freedom, and it is a free play of or a subtle response to different attachments or different tendencies.
mm.
So
So
yeah.
I was just gonna say, so on your view, would you say like Nirvana is a non-dual reality,
Mm,
non-dual um, awareness, or
yeah.
would you say no? Uh, Really, it's just the cessation of suffering. Well, it's just the
Mm.
absence of suffering. What would you say?
For me, I take nirvana as a state. It can be
Yeah.
different depending on different people. It
Okay.
can be a state, a free
A free
state,
play.
a state of
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
a
No,
state
that's
of
helpful.
freedom. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Mm.
That's good. What about like the Buddha nature? So there's obviously the
Mm.
whole Rangtong, Shintong tradition,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where it's like this debate about, um,
Mm.
you know, so within the Madhyamaka school,
Mm.
does
Yeah.
the Buddha nature does it actually have an essence? Is it actually empty? And so the Shintong tradition says, no, the Buddha nature is not empty. It's empty of other, but not empty of own being, right? And then you got the Rangtong tradition, which is like, no, 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 even the Buddha nature is empty of own being. And
Mm.
so you have this big kind of debate within Tibetan Buddhist tradition, listen to Madhyamaka. So
Mm.
what's your kind of stance? So in some of the kind of Shintong literature or the um, some of the Buddhist sutras, right? You kind of see like it seems like Nirvana, the Buddha nature um, is kind of like it's not really a thing, it's beyond thing, but it's like primordial awareness. It's
Mm.
permanent.
Yeah.
It's independent, not interdependent. Um, you know, is this something kind of that explains the interdependent impermanent phenomena, or do you take kind of the Ringtong perspective and think that that's also truly impermanent, interdependent, and empty?
Yeah, this is really a great question. Of course, there are many different ways understanding Buddha nature from early Buddhism as a potential for enlightenment. The idea was very vague, and then in Mahayana Buddhism, like in Yogacara, it is regarded as you mentioned the primordial state
Mm-hmm.
or the mirror mind, or in Mahayana, as you mentioned, the Shinto and the Rangtong, this Tibetan tradition. There's such a debate. One regards as just emptiness, like in
Mm-hmm.
Rangtong, and Shinto there's the other emptiness, and what I'm more sympathetic of once again back to Chinese Madhyamaka, especially when I'm working on Jizang, who is a systematizer of Sanlong tradition. He has an interesting view on Buddha nature. He kind of regard the Buddha nature as
Uh-huh.
equivalent to the equivalent to the middle way
Mm-hmm.
to the middle way. He believes that the Buddha nature is non-dual. It is
Mm-hmm.
non-dual, and it is a kind also reality. As also in his
Right.
explanation of the two truths, he very many times argues that the teaching of two truths is established as to reveal the ontological principle of the middle, which he also regards as the essence of Buddha nature.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
yeah, 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 Yeah.
Yeah, that fits quite well with Shintong, um, at least the Jonin type. That's cool. Um, what about like I know we both recently published a paper on is the Buddha nature triune, and I think you are also um, researching or writing on like maybe there's different kind of triune aspects to the Buddhist faith. Um, can you elaborate that a little bit more?
Yeah, I was thinking this resonance, this similarity of the Trinity and also similar topics in Buddhism. I really enjoy a lot reading your recent published paper. Yes, and I was thinking of the Trinity and Buddhist Trikaya
Mm,
theory, which is three bodies of the Buddha. And I noticed there's a very good book on it, and also there's a research on a paper published in Buddhist Christian Studies in the 80s, but
mm,
the paper was mainly argue about the difference, that how
mm,
the Trikaya and the Trinity are fundamentally different. So because we both are more interested in the places, the overlap and also the
yes.
resonance, the similarities, I think they are instead of the fundamental difference, they are also similarities we
Mhm.
can yes, I can further explore. Uh, Even I was also consider another theme is the three truths, because uh, in the Tiantai tradition, the three truths was developed based on the two truths, and there's also finally the argument of the interpenetration of the three
Uh-huh.
truths. The emptiness and the arising and the middle are three in one, and one also in three. So they are the similarities, I think, with the Trinity, CC Trinity
Interesting. Okay.
philosophy. Yeah, we can explore. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd like to think about that more. Yeah, where my perspective comes from, just kind of the Popa and his Mountain Dharma, where he talks about how there's three and yet one essence. It's a primordial family, and the sort of language that he uses is like as a Trinitarian. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, that's right. So I think there's so much there. I think there's so much within Buddhist texts that actually do resemble kind of the what Christians refer to as the God of classical theism. And
Mm,
there's even like triune sort of ways of thinking about things, and I think this is interesting because I think that the overlap. It's like um, you know on my view, how I would articulate it would be like, yeah, Christ is in these other traditions, and he's revealing truths about the Buddha nature and about um, uh, the maybe triune aspects of himself and that sort of thing. And he's doing that in
mm.
Buddhism, not just Christianity. So yeah, I think I don't know. What's your kind of perspective on this?
I think for especially for the three truths,
Mm-hmm.
penetration of the three truths, they are more similarities,
Mm-hmm.
and also the Trikaya theory. They are similarities we can explore. Of course, the three jewel aspect is
Yeah,
there are more similarity as you already explored. So probably as a follow up this direction we can explore the three truths and also the Trikaya, especially focusing on the similarity between them and the Trinity philosophy. Yeah.
nice, wonderful, wonderful. What are you working on right now?
I'm still following this direction of two truths. Now
Mm-hmm.
I'm working mainly on this influence in later Chinese Buddhist schools, especially in Chinese tradition, because most scholars believe that the idea or the philosophy of two truths ended after the Jizang, after the Sanlong and Tiantai tradition. But I noticed that although it was not explicitly debated in other later traditions, but the idea, the framework is still there. The two truth framework as Buddhist metaphysics, Buddhist theory of truth, Buddhist hermeneutical strategies, they are still there. Especially what is interesting is in Chinese tradition, it became a kind of teaching strategy and also embodied wisdom in the dramatic encounters. The idea, the framework are still there. So I'm working on the kind of two truths in Chan Buddhism. Yeah.
What would you say, like, kind of overarching? So I know obviously different traditions have different takes on two truths, and like we mentioned before, um,
Mm,
they're not necessarily in competition with one another. Well, what would you say
yeah.
is at the very heart of two truths? For someone who's listening, and they don't know about two truths and they don't know a whole lot about Buddhism, what would you say uh, the two truth thesis is?
I think what is most crucial of the two truths once again is their relations is a Buddhist view of the idea between something and nothing, and the very subtle different layers of understanding these two truths. One uh, both deconstructive and constructive. And I have a metaphor is that although it is does not appear very much in later Buddhist schools, but the two truths when it was properly understood in Chinese Buddhism, it became it like an invisible conductor in the later Buddhist schools. If we compare Chinese Buddhism as a symphony,
Mm,
it's a invisible conductor. Although there are a lot of other concepts of ultimate or conventional concept arises, they're just like different instrument or different a sound arising, which one is very important at a time, but they are all subject to this framework, to this horizon or this uh, serial truth, metaphysical speculation of the two truths. So I compare this the framework of two truths as an invisible conductor, and the later developed Chinese Buddhism as a very grand symphony. And so,
mm,
in order to understand the later development, we have to to see this invisible conductor
mhm.
of the two hands, which one is something, one is nothing, or one is deconstructive, one is constructive still.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think they're reducible to one another?
No, I think they cannot.
Okay.
Not. Yeah, it's not. They although in Dizan's view that the two was established in order to reveal
Mm,
the ontological principle, which is the middle way, but
yeah.
they two, in the teaching perspective, they two are equally important. Yeah, equally important. Not Buddhism is not only about negation, about
Mm.
emptiness, but still the omnipresence side. As you in your book, and I like very much you mentioned as the, I like the idea very much of the near side of God or the
Mm,
far side of God. And I think in
right.
Buddhism, although sometimes the near side is emptiness,
Mm,
is negation, is deconstruction, but the far side sometimes becomes the near side is
mm,
always there. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's all right, man. Well, thank you so much, John, for joining us, and really appreciate you taking the time. It's good to see you, and I really look forward to seeing you in December.
Yeah, yeah. Looking forward to meeting you in December.
That's that's great. Take care.
Take care. Thank you so much.